What if the person you trust the most is the one you should fear? In the heart of a bustling city, among the throng of people living their seemingly ordinary lives, dwelled two individuals, Maria and Antonio. To the world, they were just another couple, caught in the whirlwind of life's monotony. But beneath the surface of their normality lurked a tale of turbulence and torment. Maria, a woman of enchanting beauty and captivating charm, was the life of every gathering. Her laughter echoed in the hallways, her presence was a beacon of joy. Yet behind the veil of her vibrant persona, she carried a burden, a secret struggle, a battle with an addiction, an insatiable hunger for intimacy. On the other side of this marital equation stood Antonio. A man of few words, he was the epitome of calm and composure. His stoic exterior, however, hid a world of pain and frustration. He was a silent spectator of his wife's struggle, trapped in a marriage where love was overshadowed by Maria's overwhelming addiction. Their marriage, a union that was supposed to be a sanctuary of love and understanding, had become a prison for both. The walls of their home, painted with the colors of despair, echoed their silent cries. Their smiles, masking the truth of their unhappy existence, were a mere charade for the world. Maria, trapped in this unhappy marriage, was a bird with clipped wings. She yearned for an escape, for a life where she could be free from her addiction, where she could truly love and be loved. Antonio, on the other hand, was a man drowning in the sea of his wife's addiction, gasping for the breath of peace and normality. Their life was a paradox, a perfect picture marred by the imperfections of their hidden struggles. It was a tale of two souls bound together by the chains of an unhappy marriage, a tale of love lost in the labyrinth of addiction. But little did Maria know, her life was about to take a dark turn. Maria's search for satisfaction led her to a dangerous path. In the shadow of her crumbling marriage, she found solace in the arms of another man, a mysterious figure who offered her the understanding and intimacy she so desperately sought. This man, who we refer to as M, was a stark contrast to Antonio, embodying a gentleness and patience that Maria found irresistible. As Maria delved deeper into this clandestine affair, a sense of dread began to seep in. Antonio, once different, had started to exhibit unnerving behaviors. His eyes lingered on her a second too long. His questions about her day became more probing, and his presence seemed to loom larger in their shared spaces. Maria's heart pounded in her chest every time Antonio's gaze met hers, the fear of her secret unraveling growing with each passing day. The tension in their relationship escalated. Antonio's suspicion, whether imagined or real, cast a heavy pall over their interactions. Conversations grew terse, dinners became silent, and their home turned into a battleground of unspoken accusations and stifled truths. Maria found herself caught in a vicious cycle of guilt and fear, her affair with M becoming her only respite from the domestic turmoil. M, aware of Maria's distress, suggested they part ways, fearing their affair was causing her more harm than good. But Maria, unable to bear the thought of losing her only source of comfort, pleaded with him to stay. Their relationship, once a thrilling escape, was now tainted with the desperation of a woman clinging onto her last shred of happiness. As Maria's world spiraled out of control, she grappled with the consequences of her choices. The affair, once a salve for her discontent, had now become a catalyst for her unraveling life. Each secret rendezvous, each stolen kiss, each whispered promise was a ticking time bomb, threatening to blow her world apart. And then, one fateful night, everything changed. The ticking time bomb had finally detonated, setting in motion a series of events that would forever alter the lives of Maria, Antonio, and the mysterious M. The night was dark, and so were Antonio's intentions. As the cloak of nightfall descended, a palpable tension filled the air. Antonio, usually a man of routine and predictability, was acting out of character. His eyes, typically warm and inviting, now bore a cold and distant look. The usual banter that filled their home was replaced by an eerie silence, only disrupted by the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. His actions were increasingly bizarre. He paced back and forth, his footfalls echoing ominously throughout the old, creaky house. Every so often he would stop, stare blankly at the wall, and then resume his relentless pacing. His hands shook slightly, a sign of nervousness, or perhaps dread. As the hours ticked by, his behavior became even more unsettling. He refused to make eye contact with Maria, his gaze darting around the room, avoiding her questioning eyes. Maria, caught in the whirlwind of Antonio's strange behavior, felt a wave of unease wash over her. The man she had married seemed like a stranger, his actions inexplicable, his demeanor disconcerting. The once comfortable familiarity of their shared living space now felt alien and foreboding. Her heart pounded in her chest, a steady drumbeat of fear. She tried to reason with him, to understand what was causing this shift in his demeanor, but Antonio remained tight-lipped, his face an impenetrable mask of stoicism. The more she pressed for answers, the more he retreated into his shell. His silence was deafening, amplifying her fear. She felt like a mouse trapped in a corner, with nowhere to run. As the night wore on, Maria's fear escalated into terror. Antonio's strange behavior had turned their once peaceful home into a house of horrors. It was clear that something was terribly wrong, yet she had no way of knowing what was to come. When dawn broke, Maria was nowhere to be found. A wife gone missing, and a husband with a secret. In the whirlwind of Maria's life, from her tormented marriage to her hidden affairs, nothing could have prepared the world for the sudden void she left behind. One moment, Maria was there, a tumultuous but constant presence, and the next, she was gone, vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of questions and a husband whose actions began to raise eyebrows. The police were quick to launch an investigation into Maria's disappearance. They delved into her life, her relationships, her secrets, hoping to find a thread that would lead them to her. But the more they dug, the more they found themselves circling back to one person, Antonio, Maria's husband. Antonio, who had always been painted as the victim in Maria's tale, suddenly found himself under the spotlight. His responses to the police's questions were inconsistent, his alibi shaky. He seemed more concerned about maintaining his image than finding his missing wife. The man who had once been pitied was now eyed with suspicion, his every move scrutinized, every word analyzed. As the investigation continued, the image of Antonio as the heartbroken husband began to crumble. His late-night activities, his secret rendezvous, the hushed phone calls, all began to paint a picture that didn't quite align with his tale of victimhood. His attempts to play the grieving spouse were overshadowed by his suspicious behavior. In the midst of this, the question remained: where was Maria? Had she chosen to disappear, to escape the prison that was her life? Or had something more sinister happened to her? The answers were elusive, lost in a sea of secrets and lies. But the truth, as they say, always comes out. And as the lines between victim and villain blurred, everyone braced themselves for a revelation that would shake the foundations of everything they thought they knew. Beneath the facade of a loving husband lurked a monster. A chilling revelation indeed. Antonio, the man who had pledged to love and protect Maria, was the perpetrator of her untimely demise. As the investigation advanced, the pieces of the puzzle started to fall into place. The seemingly innocent man was, in fact, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Antonio confessed to the unthinkable. Consumed by jealousy over Maria's affairs and unable to reconcile with her addiction, he decided to take matters into his own hands. The night Maria disappeared was the night Antonio ended her life. The details of the crime were shocking. Antonio admitted to meticulously planning the act, demonstrating a cold-bloodedness that sent shivers down the spine. The man who had promised to stand by Maria in sickness and in health had ultimately become her executioner. The aftermath of the revelation was a storm of emotions. Their families, left to grapple with the harrowing truth, were shattered. The community was thrown into a state of disbelief. The man they had known, respected, and trusted was a murderer. Maria's story became a stark reminder of the destructive power of jealousy and the devastating effects of untreated addiction. It was a tale that sent ripples through the community, prompting introspection and a call for better understanding and support for those struggling with addiction. The tragic tale of Maria and Antonio ended with Antonio behind bars, paying for his heinous crime. but the scars left on their families and community were deep. The memory of Maria lived on, a haunting reminder of a life cut short and a love that turned lethal. In the end, the monster was unmasked, but at a cost far too high. Maria's story is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface, even in those who appear to be the most loving and caring. It's a tale that underscores the importance of seeking help when needed, and the deadly consequences when we fail to do so.